Children of strict parents, what was the craziest rule they enforced? I would say there's quite a list. No closed bedroom doors. For any reason, the router got unplugged at 11 on weeknights. I wasn't allowed to go to any friend's house for any reason, unless my parents had met the parents. No electronics in the bedroom. This included laptops to do homework. Phones were turned into my parents weekly, at a random time and unknown day, unlocked to be looked through, and no dating. No exceptions. And I must say the only thing these rules did was make me a sneaky child. There were some really strange rules as well. 1. Nothing could be stored under my bed. 2. If I was home alone, I had to be in the kitchen or living room. 3. The hallway light was never to be on, unless I was in the hallway. They went as far as to charge me $1 every time they saw it on. 4. I wasn't allowed to go into the garage that was attached to our house by myself. 5. I wasn't allowed to wear lip gloss until the 8th grade. Not an exhaustive list, but that's many that I remember. I was only allowed to play video games on holidays. It was the dumbest rule because my parents would always get me and my brother N64 and Game Boy games for Xmod's birthdays, but then we would hardly be able to play them. And then they would get mad at us for just playing video games the entire day on Easter, Christmas, birthdays, when they wanted us to spend time with the family. We used to sneak around sometimes by stealing our Jeep Boys and running into the forest to play. My parents were pretty hands-off and trusted me for the most part. Except for 2 things. My grades. I had to wait until I was 17 to get my driver's license, because I got a B in Algebra 2 in my freshman year of high school. I didn't get to drive a freaking car until the summer between my sophomore junior years, because I got a fucking B. My vocabulary had to be absolutely flawless. No enter my dad and me or irregardless allowed. If I said something incorrectly, my mom would correct me and force me to repeat the same statement 10 times. My childhood was pretty ideal. My husband, on the other hand, no TV, except Sesame Street and Barney. Until 10 years old. Then Veggie Tales entered the rotation. No Santa, no Halloween, no Easter Bunny, no Cupid, no St. Paddy's Day. Jesus. Jesus is your only celebration. No secular music. In bed, lights out at 7:30 p.m. This is still an enforced rule at her house, from what my sister-in-law has told me. Husbands and wives can't be in the same room. Plain shirts only. Solid colors, no logos, texts, or patterns. No gray, black, or dark blue. No maroon. Now, my husband is 28. She met him for lunch last week and saw his swimsuit truck calendar. She's been texting him non-stop for a week, telling him how badly she disapproves. Similar to others' comments, so maybe not crazy. But I had zero privacy growing up. I wasn't allowed any. The room door was always open, until my teens. My mom read my diary my entire life and grounded me in what I wrote, so I eventually stopped keeping one. No watching TV alone. No talking or texting on the phone at night, because you say things at night you wouldn't during the day, so this became turning in my phone nightly. They eventually wised up and just put a keystroke thing on my computer and parental control on my phone, so it couldn't work at night. Once they caught me texting a boyfriend, and my stepfather took my phone into the garage and smashed it into pieces with a hammer in front of me. Many other examples of control. I wasn't allowed to go to prom, I couldn't wear makeup or pluck my eyebrows, no form-fitting clothing even into high school. We had rules for what we could and couldn't eat and when. My father poked fun at my weight all the time. Through the lips, straight to the hips, he would say and poke at my 13-year-old stomach. Fuck controlling parents. I can't even read the rest of this thread without fuming. Not me, but my closet trans boyfriend, some bizarre ones and some that just make me wonder why they're allowed to be parents. No electronics that can connect to the internet in the bedroom. No phones after 10 p.m. No phones allowed that aren't on their cell plan. They check his phone at least once a week, pictures, texts, calls, and browser history. No electronic contact with anybody they haven't already met. No social media. His phone and car are tracked 24/7 to make sure he doesn't stray from approved routes or linger too long anywhere. This includes one time being 10 minutes late from work. No flannel shirts or short hair because, and I quote, my daughter will never look like a dyke. No movies with kidnapping or escape, because it might give him ideas. Another quote, try that, and I will hunt you down. No clothes deemed to be too masculine, could be anything from a dark top to baggy pants to a hat. No clothes deemed to be too slutty, this can easily change from day to day, what his mother buys him one day will be whorish the next. Any time he or his brothers are in trouble all will be punished equally, and then he will get a lecture, sometimes multiple hours, about how he let it happen. Weekly, sometimes daily, depending on how bad his mother is, body checks are enforced by his mother, but not for his brothers. If his brothers choose to beat him that's his fault because that's not their fault and he should know how teenage boys can be. If he chooses to speak out to his parents or anybody else, they will deny it, they're good at that, and when they get home, he will be gaslighted, humiliated, and sometimes beaten to prove a point. He is not allowed anything sharper than a butter knife in his bedroom. He has no access to his own bank account. His post is checked, and anything they deem inappropriate would have him punished and would be thrown away. This could be anything from a personal letter to orders from Amazon that weren't from their account, which he must ask to use. He has been disallowed food and water, because he's getting too fat, 5'4" and barely 130 pounds at the time. No apps are allowed on his phone that don't come as default. No game consoles newer than the N64, because gaming is for boys. They're anti-vaxxers. He wanted a fidget spinner and couldn't get one because every Amazon listing had autism somewhere in the listing, and they didn't want an autistic child, that's a fucking stretch. He was forbidden from being vegan, because soy causes autism and makes you tired all the time. No locks on any doors, he had a lock on his bedroom door until his brother broke it off, but he is forbidden from replacing it. All windows and doors are alarmed, you may think for intruders, nope if I think of anything else, I'll add it, but this should be enough for now. No books. Seriously. Both my parents have really bad eyesight, so naturally, I have bad eyesight as well. Unfortunately, my parents firmly believed it was my fault for having bad eyesight, so they started off by banning anything electronic. Computers, TV, video games, etc. They even banned a toy dog that required batteries to operate. I'm still baffled by that logic. I was forced to write everything by hand until middle school. When my eyesight continued to deteriorate, they started locking me on the balcony for an hour every night, so I could look far away and better my eyesight. We lived in Illinois, which gets horrific weather. Did my parents care? Nah. I still had to spend a miserable hour outside every night, which by the way, never improved my eyesight. They reached their extreme when they tried to ban me from reading books. It seemed like they wanted me to do math problems instead, but if we're talking about my eyesight, what's the difference between a math book and any other book? It didn't last as long as they probably would have liked, mostly because I had some great teachers who started lending me books from their personal collection, once they found out about my situation. The only upside is that I'm amazing at speed reading from all those times I wanted to read, but had to hide it from my parents. I am an avid self-author. I make books in Microsoft Word and don't get them published. I just save them and read them to myself in a few years when I forgot about their contents, and have better concentration at night. I often write very logical books, so I need to research while I read. That's where my parents come in. They have a rule that all screens go off at 10 p.m. except for theirs. This means that the Wi-Fi is turned off automatically when I am trying to work. They even made it so it didn't affect their devices and surf the web all night, causing them to get all grumpy the next day from a lack of sleep. I would reset the router, but it would change the name back to Plusnet, giving the game away, so now they inspect the router every night. Before you ask, no. I don't have anywhere important to be at an early time. I go to Animal Care College 3 days a week, and that starts late in the day, and that's it. They're all helicopter why about my sleep schedule, but there is literally no care for themselves. I get that I need my sleep, but I can last 3 days with 5 hours of sleep. Not allowed to have friends over or run in the house. No video games or cartoons when my dad was around. We only had one TV in the living room. No drinking before meals. When my dad came home from any travels, even if he was only away for one night, we had to welcome him, as in actually stand in line to hug him. No arguing or discussing any rules. No internet. Dad was against getting any internet at a time when it was already very common to have internet. We did have a PC though, and could have easily afforded it. Boys are not allowed to cry. When he wanted to go for a walk with us, we had to go, and we hated it. I don't really like my dad, not only for those reasons, had to move in with my parents again when I was 20, and was not allowed to be out after 9 p.m., or go out more frequently than once every 2 weekends. I was at a store once with my stepdad, and I saw a cute little dress that I wanted to buy for my stepsister, who would have been about 9 at the time. He flipped out. Those are gang colors. It was a fucking black and white striped little girl's dress. But according to my stepdad, black and white stripes are gang colors. This was in Calgary, in early 2000. It turned out that she wasn't allowed any stripes of any color. Because yeah, gangs. Oh, and she wasn't allowed to watch Power Rangers because it was too violent, but she could watch Cops with her dad, because it taught her respect for the law. My parents weren't strict, but my mom is some kind of undiagnosed crazy, meant with no disrespect. She refuses to see a doctor, and my family has harbored suspicions that she is bipolar for a while, and she would very arbitrarily enforce rules that she made up out of nowhere. After years of no bedtime, and self-regulating his sleep schedule, my then 13-year-old brother was told he needed to be in bed by 8:30 p.m. At one point during my angsty teenage years, my mom took away my mattress because she lost an argument we were having. When we actually did something wrong, there was basically no punishment. My older sister and I snuck into a pool at one point, and our parents caught us and just said, "Don't do that," then let us set up a slip and slide in the backyard. My dad wanted my mom to get estimates for getting a bathroom fixed, so naturally, my brother and I, both in high school, were not allowed to do any extracurricular activities for my junior year until she did. The entire year. That doesn't make any sense, you say. No shit. It was a fun power play where everyone lost. When I begged to be able to do the school play in the spring, after not being allowed to do the full one, my dad said, "Talk to your mom. I haven't gotten any estimates yet." So apparently, I had it pretty good compared to a lot of folks. There's my warm fuzzy for the day. I have a story about my sister-in-law, though. My mother-in-law is an absolute monster, the picture of an NPD-BPD combo. In short, the closest thing to the devil incarnate I've ever met. When my wife and her sister were little, they were beaten, like closed fist or belt, not spanked, if their room was dirty or cluttered at all. My wife already got beaten over absolutely nothing sometimes, so naturally, she didn't really respond to getting whooped for being messy. As a consequence, her sister developed legit OCD about things being flawless in terms of cleanliness. Having said that, now my sister-in-law is actually a grandmother. Ever since she got her own place immediately after leaving her mom's, it is spotless. Like even when she had children, it was spotless. A single toy left out in the open was fair game for getting screamed at. I understand why she has these issues. This is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of their childhood, but her house looks like a damn model home in a magazine. Nothing can ever be out of place. All toys will be put up, all dishes will be washed by hand before being put in the dishwasher, and all trash will be put into the trash can immediately. Otherwise, she's going to flip shit. But no, she says, she doesn't need to go to a psychiatrist to be able to deal with it in a healthy way, just scream at her children, and soon enough grandson. I had really religious parents. They're a lot better now. No Harry Potter, no Pokemon cards, no secular music, Christian music that is not mainstream only. No kissing dating. Limited socialization with non-Christians and even Christians that did secular things like wear makeup and date or wear tight clothing. No half cursing, heck, shoot, gosh. No books unless they were Christian books or classics. No earbuds, personal phones, iPod, MP3 players. This was in the early 2000s. I had to have long hair, as a girl. Everything on the internet was monitored. Also, other stuff, if they thought you were going down the wrong path. At one point, I was obsessed with writing stories with a friend, and I was told the characters I made were corrupting me. At another time, I was obsessed with ancient Celtic culture, and was told I could no longer be interested in it. Basically, any obsessions fandoms were seen as idols. I know young men on the internet right now, whose parents assign him homework on top of his real homework. The mom will go online and look up academic work, and just copy and paste and print. It's really disturbing as she constantly comes into his room asking if he has finished it. When he finally flips out, she resorts to sending his father in, who is very harsh. I've considered calling CPS on this boy's parents, because he does not understand he is being abused. But I really next to nothing about the guy except a first name. I've tried to explain that this isn't normal behavior, and there shouldn't be consequences for not finishing your parents' made-up, slack job homework at 17. He's a very stressed out kid, hardly has any free time, and at 17, has a 9 p.m. bedtime. I know he is going to hit college and not be prepared for social standards besides academics. He's never kissed a girl or even had a girlfriend. His father does resort to physical violence after he disagrees on something with him. Since you're 18 now, you're not allowed to eat food I buy or use any of my dishes or utensils. You're an adult and should provide for yourself. I hadn't graduated high school yet and only made $20 per week. I had to drop out of high school and move 800 miles away to start fresh on my own when my weight dipped under 100 pounds. She wasn't strict, I guess, just crazy. She also installed an app on my phone that would monitor my activity, such as my web history, and even limit my phone usage to less than 1 minute per day. She refused to remove it after I became independent. If my grades dropped to a B, they would take everything out of my room except my bed and some books, and wouldn't give anything back until I had an A. I also didn't hang out with friends on school days and weekends, till maybe my senior year of high school, because they stressed the importance of grades. I didn't get my license till a year after I graduated, because of the same reason. I wasn't allowed to research anything on a computer till high school, only encyclopedias. If I had tests that week, I would study until they came home from work that day, then they would quiz me on this study guide. If I didn't answer immediately, I would have to study for longer. If I got in trouble for anything, I would have to write a report on why I shouldn't do it. From the age of 12, I would babysit my younger siblings, and the youngest was 6. If they did anything wrong, I would be grounded for a couple months because they were my responsibility. They wouldn't be in trouble. They also paid me to exercise. Like, every day. If I didn't, they would make me go outside and would lock the front door, so I couldn't come in.